The morning sun had barely crept over the horizon when Sarah Matthews stood on the empty platform, her white dress now dusty and wrinkled, watching the distant taillights of the last train disappear into the vastness of the Wyoming plains. She clutched a small suitcase in one trembling hand and her grandmother's locket in the other, fighting back tears that threatened to ruin what remained of her carefully applied makeup. The wedding was supposed to happen in 2 hours, 300 miles away in Cheyenne, and she had just missed the only train that could get her there in time. Sarah sank onto a weathered bench, the enormity of her situation settling over her like a heavy blanket. She had no money for a taxi, no phone that worked out here in the middle of nowhere, and no way to reach Michael, her fiancé, who was probably pacing nervously at the church, wondering where his bride had gone. The previous night's bus had broken down 20 miles from this desolate station, and she had walked through the darkness, certain she would make the morning train. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. And what happened next? Well, it's something you won't believe until you hear the whole story. So stay with me, because this moment of despair was about to become the beginning of something truly extraordinary. She buried her face in her hands, letting the tears finally come. Everything she owned was in that small suitcase. Her mother's dress, altered to fit her slender frame, the shoes she had saved for months to buy, the simple veil that had once belonged to the grandmother who raised her after her parents died. Sarah had nothing except the dream of a better life, and now even that was slipping away like sand through her fingers. The sound of truck tires on gravel made her look up. An old pickup, more rust than paint, rolled to a stop near the platform. A man stepped out, weathered and lean, with silver hair beneath a battered cowboy hat. He looked to be in his 60s, with deep lines etched around eyes that had seen too much sun and perhaps too much sorrow. "Miss, are you all right?" His voice was rough but kind, like sandpaper wrapped in velvet. Sarah quickly wiped her eyes. "I'm fine. Just missed my train." The man studied her for a moment, taking in the wedding dress, the suitcase, the desperation barely concealed behind her brave face. "That's a mighty important train to miss. By the looks of it, I was supposed to get married today." The words came out broken, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "In Cheyenne, 2 hours from now, and I have no way to get there." The stranger removed his hat, revealing more silver hair, and twisted it in his hands. "Name's Thomas Whitmore. I own a ranch about 10 miles from here. Been coming to this station for 40 years, and I've never seen someone look quite as lost as you do right now. Sarah Matthews." She extended a shaking hand, which he took gently. "Well, Miss Matthews, I can't get you to Cheyenne in 2 hours. Nothing can, short of a helicopter. But I can offer you a place to collect yourself, use a phone if you need, and figure out your next step. Ranch isn't much, but it's better than this empty platform." Sarah hesitated. Every warning she had ever received about strangers echoed in her mind, but something in Thomas's eyes, a deep sadness mixed with genuine concern, made her trust him. Besides, what choice did she have? "Thank you," she whispered. "That's very kind." The drive to the ranch took them down a winding dirt road, past fields that had once been green but now lay brown and neglected. Thomas drove in silence, occasionally glancing at his passenger, who stared out the window with unseeing eyes. When the ranch house finally came into view, Sarah's breath caught. It was beautiful, or it had been once. A 2-story farmhouse with a wraparound porch, surrounded by outbuildings and corrals, all showing signs of disrepair and abandonment. "It's not what it used to be," Thomas said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "Lost my wife Martha 5 years ago. Cancer took her slow and mean. After that, I lost the will to keep things up. Our son Jacob, he left for the city years before that. Haven't heard from him since Martha's funeral. This place was their dream more than mine, I suppose. Now it's just a broken old man and broken old buildings." He parked near the house, and Sarah followed him inside. The interior was clean but sparse, filled with furniture that spoke of better days. Photographs lined the mantelpiece showing a younger Thomas with a beautiful woman and a small boy, their smiles bright with hope and happiness. "Phone's in the kitchen," Thomas said, pointing down a hallway. "Take your time." Sarah dialed Michael's number with trembling fingers, praying he would answer. When his voice came through, tight with worry, she nearly collapsed with relief. "Sarah, where are you? The church is full. Everyone's waiting. I thought something terrible had happened." She explained everything through her tears, the broken bus, the walk, the missed train. Michael listened and she could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. "I can't believe this," he said finally. "Sarah, my boss is here, my colleagues, everyone I work with. This is humiliating. I'm so sorry. Michael, I tried everything. I walked all night. You should have found a way. You should have left earlier, taken a different bus, something. This makes me look like a fool." His words cut deeper than she expected. "Michael, I love you. We can reschedule. Do you know what this wedding cost? What my family contributed?" "Sarah, I can't just tell everyone to come back another day. Some of these people traveled from across the country. So what are you saying?" The silence stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm. When Michael spoke again, his voice was cold. "I'm saying maybe this is a sign. You're always struggling, always behind on something, always just barely making it. Maybe we're not right for each other. Maybe we rushed into this." Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "Please, don't do this. I'll find a way there. I'll hitchhike if I have to. Just please wait for me. Goodbye, Sarah. I hope you find what you're looking for." The click of disconnection was the loneliest sound she had ever heard. Thomas found her an hour later, still sitting in his kitchen, staring at nothing. He set a cup of tea in front of her without a word and sat down across the table. "He called it off," Sarah said numbly. "The man I was going to marry just ended everything over the phone because I missed a train." Thomas nodded slowly. "Then he wasn't the man you thought he was. I gave up everything for him. I left my job, my apartment, everything. I was going to start a new life in Cheyenne. Now I have nothing." "You have yourself," Thomas said firmly. "And from where I sit, that's a whole lot more than nothing." Sarah looked at this stranger who had shown her more kindness in 2 hours than Michael had shown in that terrible phone call. "Why are you helping me?" Thomas stood and walked to the window, gazing out at his neglected fields. 5 years ago I watched my wife die slowly. Every day she got a little weaker, a little more distant. Toward the end, she made me promise something. She made me promise that I wouldn't let grief turn me bitter, that I would look for ways to bring light into the darkness. I haven't been very good at keeping that promise, Miss Matthews. This ranch has been dying along with my spirit. But today, I saw someone who needed help. And for the first time in years, I felt like maybe Martha was pushing me to do the right thing." Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks, but they were different now. Not tears of despair, but of something else. Something she couldn't quite name. "I don't know what to do now. I have nowhere to go." Thomas turned to face her, and in his eyes she saw a decision forming. "Stay here, just for a little while, until you figure things out. The ranch is big. There's a guest room upstairs. It's not charity, mind you. This place is falling apart around me, and I could use help fixing it up. You seem like someone who knows how to work hard. I don't know anything about ranching. Neither did I when Martha and I started. We learned together. Besides, I'm not asking you to be a rancher. I am asking you to help an old man remember what it feels like to care about something again." Sarah looked down at her wedding dress, now hopelessly stained and torn. A dress for a life that was never going to happen. Then she looked at Thomas, at this broken man in his broken ranch, and she saw something that Michael had never shown her, genuine human kindness without expectation or judgment. "Okay," she said softly, "I'll stay." The weeks that followed were the hardest of Sarah's life, but also strangely the most healing. She woke before dawn each day, trading her ruined wedding dress for work clothes Thomas had found that had belonged to Martha. Together they began the slow process of bringing the ranch back to life. They mended fences, repaired barn doors, cleared out overgrown gardens, and painted buildings that had been neglected for years. Thomas taught her everything, patient and kind, never raising his voice even when she made mistakes. He showed her how to care for the handful of horses he still kept, how to fix a water pump, how to patch a roof. In the evenings, they sat on the porch and talked, really talked, in ways Sarah had never experienced. Thomas told her about Martha, about their dreams for the ranch, about the son who had left and never returned. Sarah told him about growing up poor, about losing her parents young, about always feeling like she was one step behind everyone else. "Michael used to say I wasn't ambitious enough," Sarah admitted one evening. "He said I needed to want more from life." Thomas rocked slowly in his chair, gazing at the sunset, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "Ambition is fine, but it's not the measure of a person's worth. Martha used to say that the quality of your life isn't determined by what you accumulate, but by what you give and who you become in the process." Sounds to me like Michael measured everything by the wrong yardstick. As summer turned to autumn, the ranch transformed. What had been brown and dying became vibrant and alive. Sarah discovered she had a gift for growing things, and soon the garden was producing more vegetables than 2 people could eat. Thomas started selling the surplus at the local farmer's market, and Sarah went with him, learning to talk to customers, to share the story of the ranch's renewal. Now, if you're still watching, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where everything fell apart, where your plans crumbled and you thought it was the end? Maybe you're going through something difficult right now. Stay with me, because what happens next in Sarah's story might just give you hope for your own journey. And if this story is touching your heart, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this when they need them most. People in town noticed the changes. They started stopping by. Neighbors who had given up on Thomas, thinking he would let the place fall completely to ruin. They brought seeds, offered advice, shared tools. The ranch became a gathering place again, the way it had been when Martha was alive. One day, Thomas found Sarah sitting on the fence, watching the horses graze in the repaired pasture. He climbed up beside her, moving slower than he once did but stronger than he had been in years. "You know, I called my son last week," he said quietly. Sarah turned to him in surprise. "You did? Told him about you, about everything we've been doing here. Told him his mother would be proud of what this place has become again." Thomas paused, emotion thick in his voice. "He's coming to visit next month. First time in 6 years. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "Thomas, that's wonderful. It's because of you, Sarah. You reminded me that broken things can be fixed, that it's never too late to start over, that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm getting older, and this ranch needs someone young, someone who cares about it. I talked to my lawyer, and I'm putting the ranch in a trust. When I'm gone, half will go to Jacob and half will go to you. Thomas, no, I can't accept that. This is your family's legacy and your family now, he interrupted firmly. You saved this place, Sarah. You saved me. Martha would want this. I want this. Sarah couldn't speak through her tears. She threw her arms around the old man who had become the father she had lost, and they sat there together as the sun set over the land they had healed together. The day Jacob arrived was filled with nervous energy. Sarah cleaned the house 3 times, and Thomas paced the porch, more anxious than she had ever seen him. When the car pulled up, Thomas went still, watching as a tall man in his 30s stepped out. For a moment, father and son just stared at each other across the distance of years and hurt. Then Jacob's face crumpled and he crossed the yard in quick strides, embracing his father as both men wept. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I wasn't here, that I let my pride and my anger keep me away. Mom would be so disappointed in me. No, son. She'd be proud that you came back. That's all that matters now. Sarah watched from the porch, tears streaming down her face, as 2 broken pieces of a family began to mend. Later, over dinner, Jacob told them about his life in Denver, about the emptiness of his success, about how he realized too late that he had abandoned the people who mattered most. This place looks incredible, he said, looking around at the restored ranch. Dad, I didn't think you had it in you to do all this. I didn't, Thomas admitted. Sarah did most of it. She gave me a reason to care again. Jacob turned to Sarah with gratitude in his eyes. Thank you for taking care of my father when I wasn't here to do it. The 3 of them talked late into the night, and Sarah felt something she had unfelt since her grandmother died, the warmth of belonging to something bigger than herself. When spring came again, almost a year since Sarah had missed that train, the ranch was thriving. Thomas and Jacob had reconciled completely, and Jacob had started splitting his time between Denver and the ranch, learning from his father all the things he should have learned years ago. Sarah had become an integral part of the operation, managing the growing vegetable business and helping Thomas expand into selling organic produce to restaurants in the area. One afternoon, a sleek car pulled up to the ranch. Sarah's heart nearly stopped when she saw Michael step out, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit and polished shoes. Sarah, he said, approaching her with his hands in his pockets. I've been trying to find you for months. Your old landlord finally told me you might be here. What do you want, Michael? I made a mistake, a huge mistake. I should never have let you go over something so stupid. I've been miserable without you. Please, come back to Cheyenne with me. We can start over, do the wedding right this time. Sarah looked at this man she had once thought she loved, and she felt nothing but pity. Michael, I'm not the same person who missed that train. That girl was willing to make herself small to fit into your life. She thought she needed saving. But I don't need saving anymore. I found something here that I never had with you. What, this old ranch? Sarah, be serious. What kind of future do you have here? A real one, she said simply. One built on honesty and hard work and people who value me for who I am, not for who they want me to be. Michael's face hardened. You're making a mistake. You're going to regret this. No, Sarah said with absolute certainty. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really were sooner. Goodbye, Michael. She watched him drive away, and felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't even known she was carrying. That evening, as Sarah, Thomas, and Jacob sat on the porch watching the sunset, Thomas raised his glass of lemonade in a toast. 2 missed trains, he said with a smile. 2 missed trains, Sarah and Jacob echoed. You know, Thomas continued, I used to think fate was cruel, taking Martha from me, watching this place fall apart, losing my son to anger and pride. But now I think maybe fate knew what it was doing all along. It brought you here, Sarah, exactly when we both needed saving. It brought my son back home. It turned loss into renewal. Sarah looked out at the land she had helped restore, at the gardens flourishing where there had been dust, at the fences standing straight and strong where there had been decay. She thought about the girl in the wedding dress, desperate and lost, and she barely recognized her. I used to think my life would begin when I got married, Sarah said softly, when I found someone to share everything with. But I've learned that life doesn't begin when someone chooses you. It begins when you choose yourself, when you find your purpose, when you discover that family isn't just about blood or marriage, it's about the people who show up when you need them most. Thomas reached over and squeezed her hand. Your grandmother would be proud of the woman you've become. So would your Martha, Sarah replied. As the stars began to appear in the vast Wyoming sky, Sarah thought about that morning on the platform, about the train she had missed, about all the plans that had fallen apart. She had thought it was the worst day of her life, the day everything went wrong. But she had been so beautifully, wonderfully wrong. It was the day everything went right. Missing that train had led her to Thomas, to this ranch, to a life filled with purpose and meaning. It had taught her that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our worst disasters, that sometimes we have to lose everything we thought we wanted to find everything we actually needed. The ranch wasn't just surviving now, it was thriving, a testament to what broken people could build when they refused to give up. Sarah had found a father in Thomas, a brother in Jacob, and most importantly, she had found herself in the soil and sweat and honest work of rebuilding not just a ranch, but her entire life. Years later, when people asked Sarah about how she ended up in Wyoming, running one of the most successful organic farms in the state, she would smile and tell them about a missed train, a kind stranger, and the day her real life began. Because sometimes, the worst thing that can happen to you is actually the best thing in disguise. Sometimes missing the train you thought you needed to catch is exactly how you find the journey you were always meant to take. And sometimes, a broken ranch and a broken heart and a broken old man can heal each other, proving that nothing is ever truly lost as long as there are still people willing to care. The poor bride who missed her train that morning had indeed changed a broken ranch forever. But more than that, the broken ranch had changed her, transforming her from someone looking for salvation into someone strong enough to offer it, and that made all the difference. If Sarah's story moved you today, if it reminded you that your setbacks might actually be setups for something greater, I want you to do something for me. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a friend going through a tough time. Maybe it's a family member who's lost hope. Or maybe it's just someone who needs a reminder that beautiful things can grow from broken beginnings. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time when something that seemed like a disaster turned out to be a blessing. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel because every week I share stories that remind us of the goodness in humanity, the power of kindness, and the truth that it's never too late to start over. Remember, your missed train might just be leading you to exactly where you're meant to be. Until next time, keep believing in second chances, keep showing up with kindness, and keep trusting that even when everything falls apart, something beautiful is being built. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.